Okay, welcome back to Tanakh, the daily Tanakh challenge. We are finishing Sefer Shoftim today, Perek Chaf Aleph, and it's important that we're going to mention that starting Sunday, we're going to start a new Sefer, Shmuel Aleph, so make sure that you are caught up by then. Perek Chaf Aleph is a continuation of yesterday's story. We saw yesterday that because of the whole story of Pilegish Begiv'ah, so the Jewish people as a whole went out to battle against Shevet Binyamin, who refused to hand over the sinners who did this despicable, terrible act. So the bottom line was that basically all of Shevet Binyamin was wiped out except for 600 people, 600 men, who are all hanging out on a boulder, on a rock, which probably means, in a certain area that was rocky. Excuse me. So the parak starts, V'ish Yisrael nishba b'mitzpah le'mor. This is not talking about now. It's talking about, it's telling us important information that we can understand this parak, that the Jewish people at the beginning of the war had made an oath that ish mimenu lo yitain bito leBinyamin leisha. No one is to give his daughter. Everyone took a shvuah, took an oath together. None of us are going to give our daughters to Shevet Binyamin to marry. But now they realize that if that's the case, so then Shevet Binyamin is simply going to die out, and there's going to be an entire Shevet, an entire tribe of Israel that's going to be missing, and that's just unfathomable. And they started. There were no women left. All the women were killed of Binyamin. The only ones that were left were the 600 males.
Well, but it says none of us will give his daughter.
Right. The Jews won't give their daughters to these Binyaminite
men.
Right. But there are no Binyaminite women left.
I thought they killed the men.
They killed the women also. They killed everybody. Men, women, and children.
But it seems like there's Benjamin men alive.
600 who escaped and ran to this rock.
So 600 men, no women.
No women. That's all that's left. And now they realize how terrible it is. It's like they're caught between a rock and a hard place. There's nothing for them to do. And they cry out to Hashem and how terrible this is, that there's going to be a tribe missing from Israel. So they thought of an idea based on another shavua, another oath that they had given. They had given an oath at the beginning of the war that whoever doesn't come to fight this battle will be put to death. And therefore they said, let's figure out, let's try to find, was there any city who did not give any of their people, who their people did not come and fight with the Jewish people. And in that way, maybe we can find a way to get some women who were not, first of all, they were not there. They didn't take the oath not to give their daughters. And besides which, we will take their wives, or their daughters, and we'll give them to the Binyamites. So that's what exactly happened. And they find that there was a city called in the Gilad, there was a city called Yavesh Gilad, which assumingly was in the Gilad, that not a single person came from that city to fight with the rest of the Jewish people. So they send out messengers and an army basically, and they kill all of the people of Yavesh Gilad, all the men, all the women who were married or had relations with men before, and they only left alive the Betulot, the virgins. And how many were there? 400. They found 400 Na'arot, Betulot, and in that way, they were able to give those 400 girls to at least 400 of the 600 Binyamin men. And in that way, at least we'll make sure that there's not the tribe of Binyamin will not be totally wiped out. There's just one very interesting thing I want to point out before we go on. That is in Pasuk Yud Bet, there's something very strange. It says, Vayimtzu miyoshvei Yavesh Gilad 400 na'ara betula, as I said, asher lo yada ish mishkav zachar, ve'yaviu otam el machane Shiloh. They brought them to the camp of Shiloh, Asher Beretz Canaan, which is in the land of Canaan. What is that? Asher Beretz? Do we not know by now that Shiloh is part of the land of Canaan? It's very strange. So what's the answer? We actually don't know the answer. The Radak says, I have not found an explanation why the Tanakh says these words. I want to point that out to just show you the humility of the Mefarshim. They're not going to gloss over something like this. This is obviously a problem in the text. Like, why would it tell us that Shiloh was in Eretz Canaan? But on the other hand, he doesn't have an answer. So he just said, I don't have an answer. So maybe somebody out there can try to figure out an answer and then let us know, and that would be amazing. Maybe you'll come up with a tremendous chidush, a novel idea.
For example, like Beit Shemesh or Beit Lechem, there were multiple Beit Shemeshes and Beit Lechems.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a Shiloh
outside the land of Israel.
Why not? On the other side of the Yarden.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's it's possible, but why all of a sudden here?
We're going to ask, what do you mean by Eretz Canaan? Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, that's another question. It still is called, in very many places, it's still called Eretz Canaan. You're right, that's a good question. Why? I did once see an answer to that, but I don't remember it, so I'm not going to try to figure it out right now. But there is an explanation why the Torah continues to call Eretz Yisrael Eretz Canaan, and no longer not Eretz Yisrael. It's ours already. The Canaanites, we destroyed, we killed them, most of them.
Is there a shift in the Tanakh where it goes from calling it Eretz Canaan?
I don't think so. I think there's actually only very few places. We pointed it out once, I think in Sefer Yoshua. I pointed out, I thought that was the first place in Nach where Eretz Yisrael is actually called Eretz Yisrael.
But like in the times of David HaMelech, they're not referring to it as Eretz Canaan anymore.
I think they are. I think there's very few places where Eretz Yisrael is actually in the Tanakh. Those two words together, Eretz Yisrael. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to look it up afterwards, but I could Google it, I could search it. But I don't think it's very common in Tanakh. It's usually called Eretz Canaan. Okay, and I'll also try to find the reason why that's the case. So what happens is, as we said, they send these 400 girls to those Binyaminites, and they give 400 of them wives. But the elders of the community are still trying to figure out, what are we going to do about the other 200? There's still 200 men out there who don't have wives. And look at Pasuk Yud Zayin. There's a lot of psukim that you have to really look at the Mefarshim to see how to explain them, and I think this is a perfect example. Vayomru, they said, Yerushat Pleita leBinyamin. There already is a remnant of Binyamin. Now that we found 400 women for the 400 men, so then there's no longer a worry, V'lo yimachesh shevim Yisrael. There's no longer a worry that a tribe of Israel will be destroyed totally. And therefore, because if there was that possibility, so then we'd be able to maybe break our vow. We'd be able to do what's called Sheilat Neder. We'd be able to go and say, had we known that this would be a situation, we never would have made the Neder, and that way get out of the Neder, right? Bitul the Neder. But now they can't do that anymore, because what are you going to say? Because our whole tribe is going to be wiped out, but that's not true anymore, because we already found 400 wives. So what are we going to do? And we can't give our daughters because we took a shavua not to give our daughters to Binyamin. So therefore they find the following solution. There was this holiday that was celebrated in Shiloh. It doesn't explain why, what the source of it was. There's a holiday where the young women would go out and dance in circles in the fields in Shiloh, and therefore the elders of the Jewish people told the remaining 200 Binyamin men that they should go and hide in the field, and when the girls come out to dance, each one should grab a wife. Doesn't sound very proper, but then they say, look at Pasuk Chavbet, Vayaki yavo avutamo achehem lariv eleinu, when their fathers or brothers come to complain against us and say, hey, what's going on? Why you took our daughters or our sisters? Ve'amarnu alehem, we will say to them, chanunu otam, have pity on them, on those Binyamin men. Ki lo lakachnu ish ishto b'milchama. We were unable to find wives for them in the war that we had against Yavesh Gilad, because we only found 400 virgins. And don't worry that maybe you're going to think, oh, we're breaking the vow of not to give our daughters to them as wives, because you didn't give them to them. Ka'et te'eshamu, that you should feel that you're guilty. You didn't do anything wrong. Because you didn't give them, they took them. And therefore, vayasu kain pasuchav gimel binyamin vayisu nashim lemisparam min hamachololot. The 200 remaining men stole. Asher gazalu. It even says the word gazal. They stole. They took these 200 women. Vayelechu, and they left. Vayashuva nachalatam. They go back to their cities, which had been burned down, right? Vayivnu et ha'arim vayeshu b'ahem, and they rebuilt the cities and they dwelt in them, and that's how the tribe of Binyamin was saved. Vayitalchu misham b'nei Yisrael b'etahi. At that time, the Jewish people scattered. Ish l'shivto l'mishpachto. Everyone went back to his tribe and his family. Vayetzu misham ish l'nachlato. Each one person went to his inheritance. And the last pasuk, Bayamim ahem. We saw this already 2 or 3 times. Ein melech b'Yisrael. There's no king amongst the Jewish people. Ish hayashar beinav yaseh. Everyone was doing whatever they felt was right in their eyes. Now the problem is, we understood the other places where it was written, but what is the point? Why is it written here at the end of the Sefer? Like what's the point? So different opinions. The Radak says that this is really an introduction to Sefer Shmuel, because Ish hayashar beinav yaseh, everyone was doing whatever was good in their eyes up until Shmuel came along. Shmuel came along and he really changed things, because don't forget, he coronated the first 2 kings, Shaul and David. That was the Radak's answer. The Mitzudat David answers that there was no king and everyone was doing whatever was good in their eyes. Nonetheless, it's sort of like it's showing how good Am Yisrael really is deep down. Because even though there was no king and everyone was doing whatever they wanted, but it really hurt them when they almost destroyed a whole Shevet in Yisrael, and how they tried so hard to save the situation and to make sure that everybody, that the tribe was saved. And think about it, what they could have done is like, great, one less Shevet, all that land available, we'll go and take that land. And everyone would have taken a piece of Binyamin's portion, but they didn't do that. So it shows that Am Yisrael deep down is good, even though Ish hayashar beinav yaseh, and there's no Melech b'Yisrael. Nonetheless, the story that we just read shows that Bnei Yisrael are still deep down good. Okay, so we'll see you on Sunday for Shmuel. Tomorrow, of course, we do Parshat Noach.